Okay, this video is on those pesky window motors. These automobile window motors. So, you caught us into it pretty far. We've taken the motor off. This works for motors that are dragging and running very slow. What they do is they heat up. There's a resistor in here, or sometimes there's a resistor and sometimes there's just a contact that doesn't make contact when it gets too hot. And I guess that's to keep you from smashing your fingers in a window motor, from the window rolling up on your fingers. So I'm going to bypass that resistor to keep this motor going because I don't feel like buying a new one. Now, if you look inside of here in the housing of the motor, and you'll see how I put it back together. You see how it's all full of soot. It's from all the times that it's been spinning. So I'm going to have to clean that out and then get rid of that with some brake cleaner here. That came out a lot better. See, two magnets here. If you have a broken magnet on either side, if you beat on this, you'll break the magnets. Don't do that. If you have a broken magnet, you would almost have to hang it up and get a new motor. But as of right now, we don't have any broken magnets, so we're going to go with this. So I'm going to let that dry. Then we're going to take the windings here. I'm going to clean up all the crap out of them. And the copper. This right here. I'm going to wipe that off. Get the trash out of it, okay? It's important that these are individually free. They don't have any trash in them right here.
All those little slots?
Those slots, because they're supposed to be separate. They're not supposed to have a bunch of that dust in here shorting them out. That'll cause it to fail. We're going to also clean this. You can see all that crap coming out. And this one's for a Ford van, 2007. And next, I'm gonna let that dry. Now there's springs and brushes in here. These little lead things are called brushes right here. They're attached by a little wire. Okay, they sit in a socket and they're spring loaded. It's important not to lose your spring. Here's your springs. Right here, see? Your springs go in there. Here's another spring. It's important not to lose these things, right? So put your spring back in here and keep it like that. And then go ahead and clean all the crap off of that. Now I may put it back together just like this and it may work just fine. See, this motor could have just been internally shorting out from all the dust, the metallic dust that it made from these brushes wearing down over time, sending it into the motor, causing all this to short out. So this motor could actually function just fine if I put it back in. I may take that chance and I may not. Right here is a resistor. See, this wire goes that way. Then it goes to a resistor box right here, and then it goes to this lead. So this yellow wire goes here, goes to a resistor. The red goes straight to the brush. This one runs down with what looks like a paper clip thin wire. Then it goes to a heat resistor, which tells when there's pressure on the window, stop, slow down. Don't crush the person's fingers or whatever. I personally would love to crush a person's fingers who was sticking their fingers in my vehicle while I'm trying to drive off. So I'm going to bypass that, I think. And I'm going to do it right here, right now, without without removing this resistor. I'm going to leave this resistor in place. I'm going to get a soldering iron. You can pick one up at Walmart, Harbor Freight, anywhere. And they'll probably give you some solder with it. I'm going to clean this one more time. And I'm going to solder this whole piece right here together to essentially make a connection between here and here. If you don't have a soldering iron, you can, I guess you can butt connect between here and here. I've seen people take aluminum foil and jam it in here and wrap it around here. I don't know how long that would actually work. Probably not that long, not that long till it comes out. But I've seen all kind of tricks on 70s motors like this, where these brush wires have broken. They've used aluminum foil. Now, they didn't use a resistor back in the 70s like that. They used plastic balls that would slip when the gear would tighten up. And it only gets so tight, and then those plastic balls would click, click, click like a ratchet. So it wouldn't break your fingers off. And some of them would break your fingers off. All right, I think a cheap soldering iron is hot enough. This resistor, I don't really care about it. I'm leaving it in here. Be careful not to melt all your plastic up here, because this has got to go back together. Get enough solder going here. I didn't get the soldering iron enough time to get hot. So that tab over to this tab. Okay. So all I did was create a bridge. I bridged the wires together, bypassing the resistor. Alright, so there. That should roll up the window and crush your fingers. Just remember, lay off the button when it goes up all the way. That's all you have to do. I mean, back in the old days, well, power window motors, you didn't have something that really stopped it. You just laid off of the button. You didn't just keep pressing it. Alright, let's get this thing back together now. It doesn't really matter which way this thing goes on, that way or that way. That's not what's important. But
You also got some grease there, yeah.
yeah, I got some grease. You can use white lithium grease. You can use anything you want for grease. I'm going to use some wheel bearing grease because that's what's handy. So I'm going to dip the end of the motor that's going to spin on the bearing in wheel bearing grease. Not too much, it's probably a little too much. Just enough to get in there so you can fall in that socket. That's going to pull you to one side, so you're going to have to steer it in, guide it in. Once you get it in, you'll know because it'll spin like that. You'll be able to push it down. Now that doesn't exactly give us enough room to work with. So I think maybe we're going to choose a different method to do this. Maybe. Maybe not. Okay, well, what we have to do is turn this upside down like this. Make sure your springs are there. And your brushes. That's what they call these, your brushes. get this shaft through, sideways, whatever way you got to do it to get it through. Okay, now, shit. That's the improper way to put it on. It's gonna have to go on the other way. This is why it's important, folks, to pay attention to the way it came off. So, we're gonna do something different. We'll pull this back out. We already have our grease in there, which is good. You only need a little bit. Wipe this shit off so it don't get on your hands. I think they call this the arbiter. We're gonna take the arbiter like this and we're gonna put it through like this. Now we have these springs in here. They're spring loaded. Let's see. Did it went that way? Yes, it did. So now we're fixed with the task of pushing down these springs. Losing the springs.
Right there by the cap.
I see it. And pushing the brushes back in their place like that, see? And they're spring loaded like I said, so I'm holding one with one finger. I gotta get the spring in with the other. You don't put any grease on this. You put any grease on this, they'll get all funky and they'll stick. You put this down for a minute. Set myself up. It'd probably work better if you had some needle nose or you had another set of hands, somebody else to help you. Okay, now you see how I have them separated, right? I'm going to use my finger because it's wide enough to keep them separated. Sort of. Some people use paper clips to hold them in, but there's no setting to hold them in with paper clips, and then you just pull the pins like grenades and then they fling out and they touch. The copper. I'm gonna have to get a better workspace on this. Hang on for a minute. Okay, so such a pain in the butt that we had to resort to the paper clip method. Okay. I'm gonna form a paper clip now. Bend it in a U shape like that. And
Spring on the ground.
Get our springs loaded. You can lift these brushes up like that and put your springs in. You need to be careful with these little graphite springs. Brushes. Not to scar them or scratch them up too bad. Now, that's where the pain in the butt comes in. Pull it back as far as you can get it. Let me see if I can get a paper clip in here. See where I'm trying to go with this. And I'm only doing one side at a time because that's all I can do. Alright, got a paper clip in there. See, I'm holding it back with a paper clip. Jammed in there. Ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Well, this one's really tight. They didn't anticipate you were taking this apart. This was a sealed unit. Tamper. Didn't expect you to tamper with it. I have to take my other clip, the other end of my clip, and try to push it through this side. You see how soft that metal is?
Like a pencil lead, huh?
Yeah, pencil's not made out of lead anymore, but yeah, it's like a graphite. Okay.
Easy.
Now, come through. All right.
All right.
And pull your.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. Okay, so you don't want that coming out on you. So play nice with it. And so a little bit more grease on the end, even though you already have some inside your case. Get your case ready. That's going to try to pull you like a magnet, so be ready for that. Side to side. Don't let it suck it in on you. Keep your plastic with it.
Don't want those brushes coming out.
Yeah, you don't want that springing out on you. There we go. Okay. Now we're spinning. Both brushes are touching. And those little scars, little scratches I put in it will wear themselves in. They'll create a little bit more dust. But no big deal compared to what we saw. So now, I'll put a little grease on the end of our shaft. Even though there's already white lithium grease in there. This is a Siemens brand. Normally you would pull that clip off there and pull this wheel out. But
We'll stick with one pain in the ass at the time.
right, I decided not to do that. So I decided to be careful and not to scuff the gears up too much. And kind of roll it in sideways like that. You say, well, that's not the right way to do it. Well, it's not. You can get it past the gear like that.
You gotta kind of spin it in place like a screw, huh?
Yeah, normally you'd pull this wheel out, just shove it in and put the wheel back on, but there's a C-clip in that wheel. And I don't believe that was meant to be taken off much either. Not by the average person. So, without scarring the gear too much, we'll try to put it back on, because I hate windy motors. So we'll try not to scuff it up too bad. Okay, so we got that back together. It's got its little grease on there. And we got our screws to put back into place.
We also got a cover.
Yeah, no, we'll put that cover on after. Where's the screws? Put this back in place.
Up here. 4 Torx.
Okay. Torx bit. Snug it down. fine. Okay. Little gasket, dust cover. All right, there's our Ford motor back together, made by Siemens Circuit Breaker Company. All right. Now, I don't know if I put this on the right side or the wrong side, but this electrical connection, but it should wrap around and connect no matter which way I put it. I think it goes something like that.
Yep, just like that.
So then that would make sense to come through the door, hook to the connector. That's that. Now let's go see how this thing mounts. Okay, here's the bracket for it. And we know this bracket goes in here. Now these are pop riveted in with a 1/4 inch pop rivet. So you need a 1/4 inch drill bit roughly to get it out. I started with 3/16, but 1/4 inch really knocks it out. Now essentially they want to sell you the rivet kit and the rivet gun to put all this back together, but you don't waste your time with that. You go out and get you some bolts, short bolts, and you put them in there. I think this thing goes in and hooks like,
Yeah, there's got a hook there.
there's a hook here and a hook there, so that's how it goes.
Vehicle specific.
Yeah, of course, this is for the Econoline, so I don't know what the 07 Econoline. I know that the window motor was facing down that way, and so I know the bracket has to go on first on the motor. Then you grab the spool, which is down here. This is the spool with the windings on it. Make sure your window is rolled up all the way first before you remove this, and in its tight groove. Then you take the motor and this bracket, this whole assembly, which is a pain in the ass. Put it in there. Try to keep your bracket aligned best you can. Get your plugs out of the way. Twist it until you can get it aligned. Remember what I said about your bracket. The bracket's going to want to kind of jump out of alignment a bit, which mine just did. But you can line it back up. Okay. It looks like we got one screw hole here. We got another one down there, and we got one here. So that's when you get your impact. Yeah, I need a light. I just need to start something. Okay. Yeah.
Get your
Pause
impact.
and give me the impact. All right. These 3/16, you see I have to go through the secondary hole. And I'm going through the speaker hole. I took the speaker out to get to all this shit. Now, take my window motor and the cord and all that, and try to line it up here. Set it in its bracket place, which would go right there. And then the plug for the power comes through here. Like I said, this is the 07 Econoline. The Crown Vics, same motors, same ripcord design for most of the Crown Vics. At least I know I did an 04 Crown Vic or Grand Marquis. It was the same concept of motor, same concept cable system, or they call it cable system. The earlier Crown Vics used the plastic ripcord design that just broke. The ripcords broke all the time. Toyotas and stuff like that had a ripcord, I think, design, some of them.
Could there be an electrical failure that could happen right here in the switch?
Sure, yeah, that's a different story, a different video. But when the motors are dragging and going slow like that, when it's only one of them doing it, and you could put your hand on top of the window and stop the window from going up and hold it for a second, and it'll overheat and then the window will stop working. Then you let it cool down a little while and then the window will go up real slow. That resistor is failing in the motor, and the motor itself has got it's full of graphite and dirt and filth, and that would slow this down constantly. Now, there are many other reasons why that would happen. Of course, worn out rip cords, worn out track, worn out, binding in the track and shit like that. But generally, if it's working, but it's running slow and dragging like that, it's inside the motor. That resistor has already heated up too many times because it's got filth and funk in it, and it's heated up too many times, and that resistor starts to get weak and starts to fail.
All right, let's get this test out.
All right, so we got a mixed bag of nuts. My suggestion is go to the hardware. I had to go digging for this stuff. I got a 10 millimeter. I got a
12 and a 13.
12 and a 13, and nuts to go behind it, shallow bolts.
That's kind of like Ford. Anyway.
Whatever. It sucks. So go to the hardware and just get all 1/4-inch bolts or something. 5/16, whatever. And, about 1/2 inch long. And so now for the moment of truth.
Goes down.
Alright, on the window track, the window goes up and it gets up to here, and it seems to want to shift forward or backwards too tight, and it binds and it doesn't want to close the gap up here at the top and push all the way in. I've analyzed this door the best that I could at track adjustments. There isn't that much in the way of track adjustments. However, you got a track here at the bottom. This controls this side. Then you got track here. This controls this side, but that's only toward when the window's down. If it's flopping from side to side after the window's 3/4 of the way or almost all the way down and it's flopping around, if you move these tracks in, you can tighten that up. But I wouldn't recommend fooling with that if there's not a problem. But if there's a problem binding at the top, you're going to push the window about 3/4 of the way up, almost to here. Loosen your top track here. Ford seems to like 11 millimeter for their weird door schemes. So you would loosen these two, and you might feel what I felt. The track shift just a little bit, and then snug 1 or 2 down, and then try it then. And in that case, it adjusted itself, and then tighten it back up. So now, as we still have our powerful window motor, it goes right up in its lip. See? So we got no problems. So that could have been the cause of this window motor resistor burning out over time. People trying to roll this window up on this used vehicle, trying to get it to continuously roll up to the top, and that would have been a source of a bind cause. And when you get to here, I don't have much play there, but if you get down to the bottom here and you move right here, you can always bring these tracks in, or this one, whichever one. Well,
Two side tracks.
The 2 side tracks at the bottom, bring them in closer. I'm not going to fool with this particular vehicle because there is also the case of the track being worn out.
Yep.
All right,
Nice,
so
snug.
it's doing its job. We're going to leave it alone. Anyway, that's how you fool with these complicated alignment issues, and of course the window motor that you can't. They say you can't repair, but you can.
Looks like we just did it.
All right.